And I didn't want to start a fight because it was always a black eye, a broken nose, a busted lip, a rib.
Tina Turner's most powerful weapon wasn't her voice. It was her silence. On stage, she was a supernova of sequins, sweat, and soul. A force of nature who commanded stadiums with the stomp of her heel. Her voice could shatter glass and captivate thousands. The world saw a survivor. They saw a queen who had climbed out of hell and taken her throne. But off stage, in the quiet moments the cameras never captured, she kept a ledger. This silent, invisible list contained names that were never to be spoken in her presence. These weren't petty industry feuds. They were unforgivable sins. The betrayals ran so deep, they weren't met with shouting matches or public drama. Instead, they faced an ice-cold void, an erasure so complete it was as if you never existed. For 6 of music's biggest stars, crossing Tina Turner wasn't just a mistake, it was a verdict with no chance of appeal. So what does it take to be permanently blacklisted by the Queen of Rock and Roll? The answer reveals a side of Tina few ever knew. A woman whose forgiveness was rare, a legend whose memory was absolute. Number 1. Ike Turner. Ike Turner discovered 17-year-old Anna Mae Bullock in 1957. He created Tina Turner, but ultimately tried to destroy her. To him, her powerful voice meant dollar signs. To her, music offered an escape. Their musical chemistry quickly darkened behind closed doors. Ike's obsession with control consumed everything: her body, her voice, and her money. The beatings started as slaps for wrong notes. They soon escalated into systematic torture with coat hangers and shoe stretchers. She performed through broken ribs and blackened eyes. Makeup hid her injuries while she lived what she called a life of death. On July 1st, 1976, something finally broke inside her after another brutal hotel beating in Dallas. While Ike slept, she fled with just 36 cents and a gas station credit card. She ran across a highway to beg for sanctuary. Tina chose poverty over torture. She cleaned houses and survived on food stamps while Ike hunted for her. Years later, she refused to even speak his name. She referred to him only as my ex-husband or that situation. Even after his death in 2007, her smile remained, but her eyes turned to steel. I don't consider him family. I've erased him. For Tina, forgiveness meant forgetting. After surviving Ike, she developed zero tolerance for disrespect. And the next person on her blacklist would learn that lesson in a way that shocked Hollywood's elite. Number 2, David Bowie. It should have been legendary. Tina Turner and David Bowie sharing one stage. The industry buzzed with excitement. These two forces of nature, combining their voices and star power, seemed like magic waiting to happen. But everything changed during that fateful night in 1983. Music's elite gathered at an exclusive Manhattan penthouse party. Bowie held court in the center of the room. Tina, fresh from her comeback, finally felt like she belonged again. Then it happened. Someone mentioned her rising success. Bowie, high on cocaine and arrogance, made a joke that her marriage to Ike was character building. He even suggested she should thank him for giving her something to sing about. The room went silent. Tina didn't make a scene. With perfect dignity, she simply walked away. She didn't just leave the conversation. She closed the door on any possibility of ever working with Bowie again. Over the next decade, she rejected 3 separate collaboration offers from his management. During a 1993 interview, someone asked why they'd never worked together. Her response was simple. Some bridges can't be built. Some words can't be taken back. Years later, Bowie sent a handwritten apology backstage at her London show. According to her assistant, Tina read it, then placed it in a drawer without comment. The door remained closed. Tina Turner had learned the hardest way possible that some wounds run too deep. Not even the brightest stars could heal them. But this Cold War with Bowie was just the beginning. Another queen of soul was about to become her most silent, most bitter rival. Number 3, Aretha Franklin. When Tina Turner and Aretha Franklin crossed paths, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Their rivalry wasn't built on public drama. It was something more powerful. A silent war fought through glances and calculated distance. Industry insiders still whisper about the tension between them in the late 60s and 70s. These two forces of nature were fighting for respect in an industry rarely giving it to black women. But instead of finding solidarity, there was only suspicion between them. The breaking point came after Aretha watched Tina perform. She allegedly told a producer, "She screams, I sing." Just 4 words that reduced Tina's raw power to mere noise. Tina heard about the comment within days. She never responded publicly. Those close to her, however, saw her hurt transform into something unforgiving. At award shows, they performed an elaborate dance of avoidance. They carefully timed their arrivals. Their seating arrangements were scrutinized. When forced to be together, their smiles never reached their eyes. The most telling moment happened in 1983. Producers pitched what would have been the duet of the decade. Tina's answer came swiftly. No. No explanation, just refusal. Tina Turner didn't do pretend. She wouldn't stand beside someone who dismissed her art. Not for money. Not for fame. Not for anything. Their Cold War continued for decades. There was no reconciliation. Just 2 legends orbiting at a careful distance, their silence more deafening than any shouting match could be. Fans dreamed of a collaboration that would never happen. Meanwhile, Tina kept her dignity intact. Because sometimes, the most powerful statement isn't what you say, it's who you refuse to stand beside. Number 4, Madonna. By the mid-80s, Madonna dominated MTV with her leather outfits, wild hair, and provocative moves. Critics quickly noticed the obvious connection. She had borrowed Tina's raw sexuality, commanding presence, and fierce independence. These were all qualities Turner had pioneered decades earlier. Tina never minded being an inspiration, but Madonna's casual dismissal cut deep. In a 1985 Rolling Stone interview, Madonna called established artists dinosaurs. She claimed they couldn't connect with young audiences. The irony was striking. At that very moment, Tina's private dancer was breaking records. She was proving a 40-something woman could still dominate the charts. Those in Tina's inner circle say she took it personally. She had survived hell and rebuilt her career from nothing. Being labelled irrelevant by someone wearing her aesthetic wasn't just shade, it was complete erasure. Their paths crossed at the 1992 Grammy Awards after party, but never actually met. Tina glided through in a silver gown, while Madonna held court in the VIP section. No words exchanged, no acknowledging nods, not even a passing glance. It was the coldest non-interaction I've ever witnessed, a record executive later confessed. The temperature dropped 10 degrees when they were within 20 feet of each other. In interviews, Tina freely praised Janet Jackson and Whitney Houston. But questions about Madonna received a different response. She would offer a smile that never reached her eyes, then smoothly change the subject. To Tina Turner, respect wasn't optional, it was fundamental. When the pop princess failed to honour the queen who blazed her trail, the door didn't just close, it vanished altogether. But Madonna wasn't the only one who made the mistake of underestimating Tina's pride. Another music legend would soon discover the cost of breaking promises to the resilient star. Number 5, Phil Spector. Then there was the man who promised her the world and left her with nothing but silence, Phil Spector. The legendary producer had turned singers into superstars with his wall of sound technique. When he called Tina's voice the only female instrument powerful enough for rock, she dared to dream beyond her painful past. Spector didn't just flatter her, he promised months of studio time. He offered creative control. He pledged an album tailored to her raw power that would redefine her career. Tina prepared relentlessly for this opportunity. She rehearsed until her voice was a weapon. She even cancelled lucrative offers to work with this industry kingmaker. Then everything stopped. The calls never came. Studio dates disappeared. All his promises simply evaporated. Through whispers in the industry, Tina eventually learned the truth. Spector had chosen Ronnie Spector instead. He made this decision without explanation. Not even the courtesy of a rejection call. This humiliation cut deeper than any critic's harsh words. It wasn't about losing an opportunity. It was about being deemed unworthy of basic professional respect. Those close to Tina say she never spoke his name again. When journalists mentioned Spector in interviews, her silence made them squirm uncomfortably. She needed no curses or complaints. Her refusal to acknowledge him spoke volumes. Years later, when Spector's career collapsed amid scandal, Tina remained silent. She had already erased him from her story long before the world discovered his darkness. In Tina's world, betrayal was simply unforgivable. Phil Spector taught her a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most powerful response isn't fighting back. It's simply walking away. But the most explosive clash was yet to come, with a flamboyant superstar whose ego was as big as his platform shoes. Number 6. Elton John. Two musical powerhouses collided behind the scenes of what should have been television gold. Tina arrived, prepared and focused. She demanded perfection from her dancers. Meanwhile, Elton showed up late with his entourage, casually suggesting they just run through it once. Once isn't enough, Tina countered firmly. We do it until it's right. What followed were 3 hours of heated exchanges. Tina criticized his timing, and Elton responded by slamming the piano keys in frustration. Perhaps if the tempo wasn't changing every 30 seconds, he snapped. She remained dangerously calm. The problem is showing up unprepared and expecting everyone else to compensate. Elton stood up abruptly, knocking over his bench. I've sold out stadiums while you were still climbing back from obscurity. A microphone stand crashed to the floor. To this day, no one agrees who actually knocked it over. On camera, they performed with professional polish. Yet their eyes never met once during the entire performance. Years later, Elton admitted working with Tina was like trying to dance in a hurricane. Tina privately considered him brilliant but exhausting, someone who mistook volume for soul. When offered another collaboration opportunity in 1994, Tina simply shook her head. This clash wasn't just about clashing personalities. It represented two opposing artistic approaches, his spontaneous brilliance versus her hard-earned precision. Tina Turner wasn't just a survivor with a microphone. She was a fortress with boundaries made of steel and silence. These 6 names weren't random enemies. They were chapters in her self-preservation story. Each taught her something vital. With Ike, she learned that freedom costs everything. From Bowie, that trauma isn't a punchline. Aretha showed her that some queens can't share thrones. Madonna taught her that respect must be earned. Spector revealed that Hollywood promises are written in sand. And with Elton, she discovered that legends clash when perfectionism meets ego. What made Tina extraordinary wasn't just her voice or those legendary legs. It was her refusal to fake forgiveness for people who wounded her soul. In Hollywood, feuds often become publicity stunts. Enemies posed together at award shows. But Tina's grudges were sacred, private, and absolute. She didn't need public drama. Her silence was more devastating than any headline could ever be. When she walked away, she never looked back. Not at Ike's abuse. Not at Bowie's mockery. Not at Aretha's rivalry. Not at Madonna's disrespect. Not at Spector's betrayal. Not at Elton's ego. She simply erased them from her story and kept singing, kept dancing, kept surviving. Perhaps that's her greatest legacy. Not just the sequins and that glass-shattering voice, but the quiet dignity of a woman who knew exactly which bridges to burn and which to guard. In an industry built on fake smiles, Tina's unspoken blacklist wasn't weakness. It was her superpower. Because some grudges don't fade, they ignite. And in Tina's case, they fueled a phoenix rise that will echo through music history forever.